All right, we are live. Hey guys, welcome. My name is Frank Salas, also known as the talented Mr. Salas, and I'm here with the one, the only millionaire in the making, Calvin Wayman. Calvin, tell the people about yourself.
Hey, well, hello, first of all, the talented Mr. Salas. How are you?
Man, I'm good, dude. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. So tell a little bit about myself. I am a social media entrepreneur, and I like how you put millionaire in the making. Some people have asked me, how have you had the success that you've had? And I'm not a success in my mind. I'm a success in the making. So I'm just an entrepreneur grinding it out day after day and getting an inch closer every single day.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And Calvin's actually being a little modest. He's actually a contributing writer for Entrepreneur Magazine. He is at all the cool events. I'm seeing this guy taking photos with Alex Kahn, Gary Vee. I mean, he's shaking hands. I saw his Snapchat, and he was in a car with Lewis Howes, just like cruising. Where'd you go with Lewis Howes?
Hey, he was in my car, not the other way around. We were going to a healthy smoothie place.
Nice.
We were at Social Media Marketing World, and we were given food for the event, but it wasn't healthy enough. And I was doing the Whole30 eating plan. He wanted something healthier, so it just worked out. I had my car right outside the event, so we just went and found something to eat.
Calvin, so people have a frame of reference of how easy it is to get around someone like a Lewis Howes. What were you doing 6 months ago?
What was I doing 6 months ago? You mean before any influencing or anything like that?
Yeah.
Man, what month was 6 months ago? Was that
November?
You know what? That is true. Holy cow! I'm just thinking. I had almost met no one and I'm actually glad that you talk about Lewis Howes, because I actually have a story that I was just thinking about, kind of preparing my mind for this call, of when I first had interaction with a big influencer.
Right.
Somebody that I knew had a following. And guess who it happened to be? Lewis Howes. It was Lewis Howes. So
nice.
This is what happened. So it was a little bit more than 6 months ago, but I think it was around July of last year. July of last year, I went to an event in LA where Lewis Howes was going to be the keynote. And this is the experience that was really interesting. I walked out of the event, and this was like 2 hours before Lewis Howes was scheduled to speak. And I saw Lewis Howes right there. I was like, what? And I went and stood right by him. And I was like, holy crap, I was in his School of Greatness Academy. And so I had a little bit of engagement with him that way. But what blew my mind is, in my brain, because of how I knew how he was an influencer, I thought that he was going to have like 5 guys of security around him, that there was going to be like this huge paparazzi, and I couldn't even believe that I could be standing right there by him. Like, it blew my mind. And that was the first real experience that I was like, holy cow. These influencers are a little bit more like normal than I thought. So
yeah, dude,
that was a pretty big day for me. I got the balls to ask him to do an interview on I had my iPhone. I was like, man, I got to capture this. So I did a little interview. And that was really the beginning. But now to go to your actual question, you said, where was I 6 months ago? Six months ago, if it was November, I had just barely come off of two massive events that further cemented my belief how normal successful people are. The first one was in New York City. I went to Periscope Summit. You mentioned how I've hung out with people like Alex Kahn. He was one of the top. He's a good friend now. I mean, and if he ever watches this, Alex, I'm not dissing on you by any means by saying how normal you are. Alex Kahn actually is not very normal. He's like a towery German. He's like 3 taller than me. Yeah. But at that event, seeing people like Alex Kahn and Alex Pettit and all these guys that were big on Periscope, and also Grant Cardone, my Uncle G, what was really cool is I saw these people in their native element without the camera on, just seeing them at a party, interacting with other people. And again, it just really cemented the realization that, man, these people are actual normal people. I mean, I bumped into multimillionaires, probably a couple billionaires at the event, and it just blew my mind that they're just people. And it gave me so much confidence. I don't even know how to explain it. But it's like, dude, they're like you, they're like me. And if they're this normal, then maybe I'm not so far off the path as I thought I was. You know, maybe there's just a few things that I got to learn to just keep on taking action. But it was just a huge realization that they're just normal people. So that was a huge event that happened in September. And then the next month in October, I went to this event called Thrive. I don't know if you've ever heard of Thrive. Have you heard of it, Frank?
I heard of like the Thrive MLM, the direct sales company, like the little patch on the arm.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Not that. So Thrive was an event for entrepreneurs, and I think the average this was my first real investment into myself in terms of going to an event. The ticket price was $1,000. And before this, I had never spent more than like $100 to get into an event. And I was like, oh my gosh, but I had a really good friend of mine, Jeff Woods, that recommended that I go to this event. And I thought about it for several days and weeks, and I finally just said, you know what? I'm going to go to this event. Best decision I ever made, going to that event. What I did not realize when I made the decision, but what I realized after the event, is how having a ticket price like $1,000 had made so there was such a high concentration of badasses. You know, there were no like small. I mean, I was the smallest mind in there, is what it felt like. Like I was like, holy crap! I got into this secret club, and I can't believe I'm hanging out with all these people. So it felt really, really cool. And that's where I met Gary Vee for the first time. That's where I hung out again with Lewis Howes and John Lee Dumas again. I've hung out with them a few times before that, and just people that have huge audiences. Excuse me, people that have huge audiences. And what was cool is not only did I get to see how they are and learn from them, but again, I came from that with such a realization that yes, these guys are awesome. Yes, they have massive following and massive influence, but they're just like me and they're just like you. And I can't explain how much it just gave me a huge belief that I can do this. If I want to grow a following, if I want to engage an audience of a lot of people, then I can do it too. Because just seeing these guys in their normal element, like during the event or going to parties after an event, just hanging out with them in cocktails and conversations, seeing them say awkward jokes that didn't land, or seeing them just, I don't know. They're just
be human.
Yes. That's what it made me realize is that's what it's about. It's not about being this super special guru that's an untouchable. It's just being human, because that's what they are. And yeah, and then I ended up connecting with them, several of them, which I feel very blessed to do. And it was doing exactly what you said, which is just being human.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I want to like revisit some stuff. And we got Tashan TP Wayman, who's joined us live. We also have Jose Sinclair, who's joining us, and that's at Haywood 310. Really want to say a shout out to all the comments. We're recording this live on Blab. And I want to backtrack real quick. You said that your ticket costs $1,000, and a lot of people that are going to be listening to this are first-time venturers into this online space, maybe even in marketing in general, and building their network, and they quite don't understand the concept. They're used to going to like the IHOP, $8 pancakes, weekly, whatever. And you're going to an event that costs $1,000 with high caliber quality people that have already put the work in to get a network. And of course, you're going to get some value from the speakers. But you and I have been in a conference together, and we obviously connected, but we worked our game and worked our circles, and we established relationships. And even though we had, a brief conversation that was maybe 20 or 30 minutes or so, we still have kept up because you and I are great relationship builders. And like, I've seen your wife, I jump on your scopes, like, I follow you on Snap. Like I basically know a lot more from you by just staying connected with you from that. So I wanted just to point out the fact that that investment, it is a lot. I'm not saying $1,000 is like pennies, but that $1,000 isn't just to go to the event. It's to have access and build relations with these people. So once you go to these conferences, you have to follow up.
Yes. Something I want to add on this, because again, I was the guy a year ago that there's no way I ever would have done that. Like, that would have been so irresponsible, I would think, fiscally, like being with my finances. But this is what I want to say for people watching. One thing that I hate, there's very, very, very few things that I hate. And one thing I hate like mad is I hate debt. Like, debt is like a slave. It's like, it enslaves me. It's chains. In fact, I just barely became debt-free this year for the first time in my entire adult life, and I'm stoked. But this is what I'll say. If you have no money and you can go into debt on a credit card to go to an event where there's going to be high-level people there, do it every single time. Especially if you don't have any, like, if you can just be around that and you've never done it before, I would still do it again. I would do it over and over because it's that powerful, just getting around them. So that's just something I wanted to add about, yeah, you're right. It's not pennies. And as much as it's not pennies, and as much as I hate debt, and as much as I know that it's not going to be something that anybody can just swing, if you have the chance, you have enough credit that you could put it on a credit card, it would be worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my very first ventures into networking outside of my traditional means was I went to a conference that cost several $1,000s. I didn't have the money to go for it, and I just called up people that I knew believed in me. And I was like, hey, I need some cash to go to this conference. And it's a bunch of real estate people that were there. And when I was there, I was able to meet them. And I knew within 90 days or less, I was going to be able to pay back that person and make a profit by going to that conference. And that was my first time doing something like that. I slept on a friend's couch. I was, eating the little buffets that they had. I was just, I was there and I was shaking hands and I was being of value to people that were ahead of me. And they saw that. They knew that I was looking for a way in. And one word that I'm a huge fan of is the word pronoia. It's the opposite of paranoia. Paranoia is the fear that everyone's against you, but pronoia is the belief that everybody is with you. And I just adopted that mindset, man. And people have been showing love. That's where I got my first, 7-figure investors, 8-figure investors, and my first REIT, real estate investment trust, by going to that conference. And they didn't have anybody in Austin, Texas. And because I was there, they like reached out to me. So, I really wanted to stress the importance of, paying to play, put some skin in the game.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, I'm still processing the impact that it's had, because I've read books where people say that you're the average of the 5 people that you hang out with most, and even though you're not going to hang out with these high level influencers all the time, there's something undeniable of that happens to your mindset when you see people playing life at a higher game, because when you see not only how normal they are, but you see the results they have, man, that gives it makes your belief skyrocket, because sometimes you think, well, maybe I'm not good enough, but you see how normal they are, and you see that they have it. So you're like, well, if they did it, then I can too. So super, super key.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's go ahead and shift gears a little bit. We're talking about conferences. Yesterday in Austin, Texas, I went to just a traditional networking event, and I went up there, and it was like at a local lunch spot. I just showed up and shook some hands, kissed some babies, and I ended up meeting some people who didn't know how to market themselves on social media. And that's another one of my businesses that I do, is I help people really growth hack their businesses. And they had no idea what Blab, Ghost Code, Snapchat, Instagram. They didn't know about the new Instagram update. They're calling me today because Instagram changed their icons, and they're like, my Instagram has been hacked. They don't know. And I met 3
It looks
well-qualified
awesome.
clients.
I saw an article on it, by the way, that they were like, "Oh my gosh, this looks horrible." I'm like, "No, I like people. I like people changing."
Yeah.
Snapchat is doing a really good job of it, and so Instagram is doing it as well. Anyway,
Absolutely. Yeah, man. So yeah, we when I went out to that event, I just gave them value. And when I'm always networking, and no matter what business I'm in, I always give value. So when I went to the real estate investment seminar, I always gave value on the average cap rates or, payouts on deals in my city. And I came through with deals ready to go, saying, here's the due diligence. I would love to have you, take a look at this on your plane ride home. Always breaking down the taxes, the laws, just being above and beyond of value. And when you're at events like that and you're around people who are seemingly more successful than you are, the more of value you can be to them offline and online, the better results I get. So what kind of examples do you have for people of how you've been of value to people that have been a little bit ahead of you in the game?
Okay, this is a huge thing that you're touching on, and I'm so glad that you're going this direction, because this was a huge epiphany for me. When we've already talked about being around people can help you, being around like high-level players is going to level up your game, right? Mm-hmm. And you're going to get a lot of benefit from this. But something that I want to make sure people watching this become very clear on is you're not always just looking at pulling stuff from the person in the network. As a matter of fact, it doesn't work that way. If you want to get a lot out of it, then this is what you want to do. You have to do the exact opposite of what you think that you should do. If you're trying to, you want to go to networking events and do all these things to get value, but how it actually works is it works by you going to the group and asking what you can do to add value. And this was something that I learned going to the Thrive event that I was telling you about. Mm-hmm. Because I bumped into all these people, every single one of them either had a successful business or they were in the grind of doing their business, right? And what was super, super important is that was just such a huge thing for me is every single person I talked to asked me one question somewhere in the conversation. How can I support you? Mm-hmm. Right? And you know this, and that's how we connected. And you just see, and it just separates everybody else. As soon as we met, I was like, what are you up to? You were like, hey, what are you up to? I'm like, hey, how can I support you? You said, how can you support me? And it just is such a strong foundation. And I come from a background of where I've done other networking before. And again, I'm going to use an example of network marketing, not to down it. I love network marketing. I've been in network marketing. It's done a lot of stuff for me. But I've been to meetings and I've been to networking groups while I was in that. And the networking was the exact opposite. It was it was more like, this is what I have. Let me pitch you on something. I want you to join me type of a thing. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to network and actually build a relationship and connect with people, then what you want to do is go to them and say, what can I do to support you? And there's several things that how I've been able to connect with people. We can use, I'll use John Lee Dumas as an example. So I've been fortunate enough to bump into him at a couple different events. And the first time I bumped into him, my thing was Periscope. So I was like, hey, what are you trying to, how can I support you on Periscope? And I would just show him like how if you do the title differently, you can get more people on. That's how I connected with Ty Lopez at the Thrive event. He was doing Periscope, and I said, hey, brother, just curious, why don't you have your URL in your description? And we started talking, and then he connected me with Maya, his right-hand person. Ty Lopez ended up buying my Periscope course. And now I have a connection with Ty Lopez. I've been able to get other people connected with Ty Lopez that have now gone to his house and been interviewed by Ty Lopez and his team because of that connection. I randomly knocked on somebody's door in California that when I was doing door-to-door solar, and I was like, how can I support you? And she ended up becoming a client of mine for a little while for social media. I ended up connecting her with Grant Cardone. She just barely like a week or two ago got flown out to Florida and was interviewed by Grant Cardone. And she is the most powerful she's considered one of the most powerful women in network marketing. And I have that connection and that relationship now. She texts me, like she was texting me just a couple of days ago saying, asking me questions, but just saying thank you. And like, I'm so glad we have this relationship, you know, just at the social media marketing event, hanging out with Lewis Howes. He's like, I need somewhere healthier to eat. And I was like, my car's outside, just looking for ways to add value. And then I got to hang out with him. And then again, see how normal it was? He ended up recording a testimonial of me because I've been in the School of Greatness Academy. And he promoted that on a webinar he did for School of Greatness Academy. And then just a last example, my buddy, Jeff Woods, who, if you don't know Jeff, you should connect with him. He is so on top of this. He is so connected and he understands this. And I've learned so much from him. He's always asking me, how can I support you? And I was, and at the Thrive event, he asked me, how can I support you? I was like, I asked him the same thing. I want to support you as well. We ended up going to breakfast one morning. And in that conversation, of how we can support each other, he said, I'm going to connect you with my entrepreneur.com editor for Entrepreneur Magazine. And because of that relationship, because of the offline network and asking how we can add value to each other's lives, that's how I got elevated to entrepreneur. So the key, I think, that people need to know is it's what you started this whole question with on the segment that we're in. And it's asking someone what you can do to add value to them, looking to add value to them, looking to support them, asking, how can I support you? And that's where the relationship is built. By the way, even if you don't even know what you can do to add value yet, just asking that question, you're going to be in a completely different, it's going to be a solid foundation for that relationship to continue, right? Even if you don't even know what it is you can do yet. And sometimes people will say, well, this is what I'm looking for. And you may not know what you can do for them in that moment, but you may find somebody later that can do that thing, right? Just another example on this. I asked somebody, what can I do to support you? And they said, can you do like WordPress? Are you good at WordPress and web development? And I was like, no, but I know this guy that is. And then I just connected them and they did work together, you know? So what's super important is if you want to do this right, you're always looking to support them without any expectation of anything in return. And in a weird twist, you end up getting elevated. You're going to do stuff for free. You're going to help people. But when that's what life's about. That's what business is about, is building these relationships anyway. If you're going to do work for people for free, but you're getting a relationship out of it, it's going to be worth it, because that's what's going to help you in your whole career in the long run.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. We got some great questions here from Kat Haluska, and she, number one, is following you on Snapchat, and she says that your Snapchats are fire. We got James. We both met James out in San Francisco at the Periscope Summit. What up, James?
Hey, James. Yeah, James is on here. Awesome. Yeah, Kat and I were at an event recently also.
We also got Tracy Cooper at Resume Workshops, and we have another James out in San Antonio. He is also supporting there. We got some Talent Tribe folks in here. What's good? So we had a great question here. So that question is, Calvin and Frank, what events are you guys attending this year? So what events have you attended, and which events are you going to attend this year?
Okay, so events that I've attended this year already. I attended Nick Unsworth's Life on Fire event in San Diego. That was awesome. Nick Unsworth is actually my business coach that I hired last year, so I've been supporting him. I've attended Periscope Summit up in San Francisco. That's where you and I connected for the first time. Mm-hmm. I attended a personal development event recently called Michael Burnoff's Core event. That was kind of a fun experience. I went there without even having a ticket and ended up getting in. I recently attended Be the Change, Suzanne Evans' event in Las Vegas. And I know I'm missing at least one other event in there, I think.
Social Media Week.
Oh, yeah, I missed 2. Social Media Marketing World, because that's kind of what I'm getting into. Wow, frick, 3 more. So Social Media Marketing World, funnel hacking, because I want to learn about funnels. And again, I ended up connecting with Russell Brunson, and I'm writing an article for him for Entrepreneur Magazine. So that's for free. Where will that go? I don't know. What I'm going to do that for him. And then
That's awesome.
And then I just barely, up in Palo Alto, I went to a Brendan Burchard Experts Academy event. So that's what I've done so far this year. The only thing that's on my calendar so far is 2 more events so far. Next week, I'm going to something called Millennial Entrepreneurs. It's an event in LA that's put on by my buddy Eric Yang. There's a small chance I'll actually be speaking at that event. There's a bunch of my friends that I've connected with that are already speaking at that event, like Brandon T. Adams, Ashley. I can't remember. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. It's like, I don't want to butcher it. It starts with a Z. Nicholas and Amanda Bayerly are going to be speaking. Kevin and Devonna Stimson. Yeah, just a bunch of my friends that I've met throughout the last year. They're going to be speaking at the event. And then I booked myself for an event later in the year by a guy named, I just forgot his name as soon as Kyle Keese. It's Keese or Cease. But it's like he's a comedian that's doing personal development in a comedic way. Mm-hmm. And I saw a video of his and it just totally resonated. I bought the ticket and then I bumped into him at the Russell Brunson event. And so
nice.
Yeah, I'm excited to go to that. So I have those 2 events that are coming this year. So yeah, what about you, Frank?
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I was in the Philippines for 3 months and I really went to, so as far as conferences, those are great, but this year's a building year for me. And I was in the Philippines for 3 months and I was at different parts of the country and I literally walked into incubators and, groups of and tribes of people who are in all types of different tech and outsourcing. And I just walked into their office and, worked my magic, no appointment, nothing. And I would go in there. So that's how I'm, growth hacking my offline presence. And I go to weekly tech stuff here in Austin. There's always a new app dropping. There's always a new conference. There's always a bunch of app developers, and I throw on a suit. I go to the events. I don't buy a ticket. I just literally just walk past security and like pretend like I'm supposed to be there. And if they have any questions, I say, oh yeah, I'm speaking. And, I just, roll with it. And I just walk into, like, there was a tech stack here and there's a bunch of programmers and stuff. And, me being me and having my communication skills and in a room full of programmers who aren't really the most communication friendly, to put it nicely, is just deadly, man. I got so many peeps who have all these billion-dollar softwares and projects and they have no idea how to market it, no idea where to start, but it's like so powerful and the world could benefit from that. And this is something that you should come with me, Calvin. Like, we should JV on some stuff and like, dude, throw on a suit. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds that's right up my alley. I would love to do something like that. Just for the fun, like walk in like you own the place or that you belong there, and just start talking to people.
Yeah,
man, that's sounds genius. I like sometime offline off of this, I would love to like chat with you, like just on some of the ones that you did that with and how like the process and how it worked and how you connected with like the people that you needed to there and how you got business out of it. That sounds like a ton of fun.
Yeah, real quick, like a recap on that. I just suited up, walk in, the guy asked for your pass. I said, oh, I'm speaking, and then who are you with? And then I did some research and I would just drop a few names and be like, yeah, I'm with so-and-so, blah, blah, blah. And, gotta go, they need me backstage. And I would just walk backstage, just start shaking hands. I would look for like someone, because computer programmers are like really quiet and they're all like, it's funny, they're all huddled together but not saying anything. So I just come over and say, hey, how's it going? I'm Frank. I'm here in Austin. Just really a guy that puts deals together. What's your software? What's your story? What do you guys do? And they're like, oh, I'm like this, and this. And I say, hey, that's that sounds really powerful, but I'm like an American and I'm a regular dude and I have no idea what that means. Do you have somebody like me that can make your message easy? And they're like, no, like, where's your card? And I give them, I dropped the talented Mr. Salas card on them. And I was like, yo, you need a face, you need a voice, you need some marketing, I got you. And sure enough, 100% of them are like, man, that cat was smooth, that guy was good. And nobody's coming to these events, Calvin. So you and I just like would seriously, you go out there and wreck shop on this whole thing.
I love that, man. Yeah. I mean, just start talking to people too, you know, and I like the balls. It's ballsy to just, to walk in there like that. Cause you know how many people are going to do that, right? It's pretty close
to the work.
Yeah. Pretty close to zero. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So mad props to you for doing that.
Yeah, dude. And you know, there's a lot of people who are like, I don't have $1,000 to do that. I don't have this. I don't have that. Yo, be resourceful. You know, you don't lack resources. You lack resourcefulness.
Yes. Yes. The good quote from Tony Robbins. Totally agree with that. Yes. You can always figure something.
Absolutely. So as far as me, what I'm doing, I'm not attending too many conferences. I'll be at the Scobers Unite conference and the Peripreneurs conference in Las Vegas when is that? In August. It's in August.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll be there, and they're going to overlap. So I'll be there for a while. And when I go to conferences, I like to go on Thursday and leave on Tuesday. I like to explore the city, you know, get 2 days before, 2 days after to really just kick it in the city. And I got friends all over the world, especially now with Periscope. Periscope's even expanded that. And I'm just going to, you know, kick it with some people, hang out. So I'll be there. And then I'm actually throwing my own summit in the Philippines in October with Diana Mae Fernandez at Dolls Mastermind. We are there, and I'm gonna go to Tampa and go with my boy James. We're gonna kick it. So I'm throwing an international summit in the Philippines. We're doing outsourcing tours for all these entrepreneurs that like a Russell Brunson, like somebody like a Lewis Howes who has all this back end stuff, and maybe he has a virtual team, maybe he doesn't. And I'm gonna say, look, I respect and understand your greatness and your stature in the community. And I'm coming to you as a businessman saying, do you want to pay an American this, or do you want to pay a Filipino this? And if you want to know how this whole thing works, come with me to the Philippines. I'm going to show you a good time, and we're going to have this stuff, and we're going to work together on my area of expertise. Because Lewis Howes is like leaps and bounds above me. But in this particular realm, in this particular world, this is something that I excel at, you know? And I'm not like, and that's the thing. Everybody's like that. Calvin has his own skill like that. Like, damn, Tai Lopez is one of your clients, bro.
Dude, that's what I was going to say. That was another thing that blew my mind when you talked about giving value, because we put these people on pedestals, but there's always something that you know that they don't. Like, even though they have these huge followings, there were some things I knew, like about Snapchat, that I could share with John Lee Dumas, or something about Periscope that I could share with Tai Lopez and add value to their life. So they know a lot more, obviously, because they're at a higher level overall in business, but there's always something you can do to add value to their life.
Absolutely. So we got Kat calling in. She is at Kat Halushka, and she's an entrepreneur and an online marketing pro. So I want to see what she's got to say. Welcome, Kat.
Hi, can you hear me?
Awesome. Hey, Kat, how's it going?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing awesome.
So I have a question for you.
Amazing.
When you attend events, how do you prepare for it? Like, how do you know who's going to be attending?
That's a great question. Well, for me, if there's just the events I've gone to, it's like there's one person that I know is a person that I want to be around. And I know that if there's one person that I'm going to like, then there's going to be other people in that circle that are going to be cool to hang out with also, right? Like, Kat, you and I both went to the funnel hacking event.
Yes.
Right? And I know that Russell Brunson is a badass. And so he's going to attract other badasses. And that was a really fun event because that event had it was one of those events that had such a high caliber of people that were just attendees, that if I did not know them already, I would have just thought that they were just regular people. Like Drew Canoli, he has a huge following, huge audience, huge YouTube show. And I mostly, when I see people at that high level and they're at an event, it's because they're going to speak. and he was just there just to attend. Or Mike Koenigs. I don't think he spoke. Did he speak? I didn't see him speak, but I saw him like walking through the event. Like there are just so many people. So that's what made me choose that event is I wanted to learn about funnels a little bit because it's something I want to do to grow, excuse me, to grow my business. But I just knew Russell Brunson was going to be a badass, and so it was a badass, and there'd be other people like that there. So that's typically how I choose the event.
That's awesome. What about you, Frank? Any tips?
Yeah. So number one, I'm the kind of guy like Calvin is definitely consumes a lot of content, and he knows who people are. I only focus on putting out my content and looking at the content of my followers and my clients. I don't have enough time to like consume a lot of content. And so like if I were to see somebody, I wouldn't know who this person was. I'd be like, hey, how's it going? And I would just introduce myself. And because of that, I'm meeting people like Calvin because I'm not putting anybody on a pedestal. I'm not putting anybody below. I'm just approaching them as a human saying like, man, I understand that people have value in different ways. And now I currently have like a plethora of fashion lines coming out from just engaging people. But that's me. Like if you were to come to Austin, Texas, down here in Silicon Hills, and you were to catch me walking around a coffee shop, I'm probably going to be chatting up somebody, you know, just like bullshitting, just straight up having a good time. And that's how I am at all the conferences. You know, of course, there's people that are like this and there, but like Alex Kahn was someone that I wanted to meet at the Periscope Summit, but he was in such demand, I couldn't even like say hi to him. I had to say hi to him on Snapchat. You know, that's how busy he was at those kinds of conferences. So what I did is I focused on, you know, people that were there, that were getting into the business, that maybe have been established. And I just say, hey, how's it going? You know, this is what I do. And I, like Calvin mentioned earlier, I always say, how can I be of value to you? And my philosophy of doing business in general, whether it's online or offline, is give value, serve, and then ask for business. So give them a sliver of golden nuggets, give them the golden nugget, take them to the gold mine, and then help them load all that gold from the gold mine to their car. Give them a map, give them a phone, give them some food and water, give them your phone number and say, if you get lost, call me. And then you ask them to buy your magic beans after you've done all of that. So yeah. And James says, jab, 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 right hook. I think there's another step that you need to add, but that's because I come from the real estate background and I'm selling homes at several hundred thousands, if not millions of dollars. And when I earn that business, and I earn every one of my contracts, I show up to houses with flower pots, with, you know, legal documents saying you need to fill this out. Here's a market analysis for free that my VAs have spent a few hours on. Here's the update. Your neighbor's house sold for this much. I think your house is worth this. Here's tax records, etc. And I'm just like, this is before I even get them to sign or even meet me. They're like, wow, this guy's a professional. So that's just where I come from in business. And I've been in business since I was 20 years old. I'm 28 now. And I always knew that in order for me to come up, I just had to serve. And everybody says, you know, help everybody else get what they want and you'll get what you want. And I never registered that. But as I've gotten older, I'm only 28 now, but this last year, I really, truly realized that. So I don't really come with an agenda. And if someone's busy, I'd rather be around somebody who is around that person as opposed to being that right person. Big shout out to Frank Clark, who just joined us. He's out in New York. Love that guy.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys.
Hey, Kat, thanks for coming on. Enjoy your time in Canada.
Oh, it's too cold here. All right. Yeah.
See ya. Yeah, we got some more time for some questions. If anybody wants to jump in, we got, you know, plenty of time. No, Frank, we're wrapping up here, but we're talking about growth hacking your offline network. Call in and somebody like you, Frank, come bless us with your swag. So Frank's the guy who came on last time and just like destroyed us with swagger. So come on, man. The crowd, the people want you.
Yeah, and so if you have any questions in terms of like how to approach somebody, maybe you're shy or anything like that, if anybody's that way, then don't be shy here. This is your chance to learn.
Hey guys, how are you?
Hey Frank, so we got the two Franks again.
Yes, Frank and Frank, love it. And the name of my show is Perfectly Frank Conversations. So
you look a little bit different. I don't know what it is.
My hair is funny.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
I don't know.
It looks maybe a different color.
Yes, I used to be black. Now I'm white.
So Frank, we're talking.
Wow.
Yeah, Frank. So, Frank, we're talking about growth hacking your offline network, and a gentleman like yourself who has so much business acumen and experience in seminars and conferences and raising funds and JVs and all that stuff. You know, tell us about your experience on growth hacking your offline network. How do you do that?
All right, so perfect time to ask that question because I'm doing it right now. It's all about getting referrals, right? And to get referrals, you got to demonstrate that you're providing value, you're adding value to other people. So even on Blab, I'm always looking to add value and create value for other people. And just coming on your show because you asked me to, I'm like hoping I can add value because I've got some things that I can say that are like, recent things. So I did a fantastic interview today with Chris Voss, who's the former lead hostage negotiator for the FBI. And Chris was sharing a strategy that he used, very recently. He was at a book signing with Jack Welch, former CEO of GE. And Chris used one of his techniques, negotiation strategies, to get Jack Welch to agree to consider coming in as a guest lecturer for his USC MBA class, which is huge because you can imagine a guy like Jack Welch gets, dozens or hundreds of requests per day to come and speak, and I'm sure he's, extremely busy. So, in just 60 seconds or 2 minutes of exposure to Jack, he was able to get him to agree to, potentially come in and speak to his MBA class, which I thought was huge. So I'll give you the question that he asked, but you can learn more about his strategies and techniques. He's got a brand new book coming out next week called Never Split the Difference, Negotiating as If Your Life Depended on It. And remember, as a hostage negotiator, you can't split the difference because you can't say, okay, you've got 7 hostages. Why don't you just send us out 3.5 and let's call it even, right?
Right.
So he talks about how, the paradigm in negotiations is all about getting to yes. The big book was Getting to Yes from the Harvard Negotiation Project. And people get so fixated on getting to yes, they forget the power of a no to help define direction of a negotiation. So the question that he asked Jack Welch was, would it be a ridiculous thing to ask you to speak to our MBA class at USC? And watch the interview that I did. I'll post the link here in a minute, but it kind of fried Jack's brain for a second because nobody had ever asked him a question like that. Because he's not saying, hey, can you come speak to my class at USC? And then he just says, no, I can't do that. He was saying, would it be a ridiculous thing to ask?
I like that. Yeah, such a great way of asking that.
So then
instead of like, you get a flat turnout and you're like, would it be ridiculous if I asked the question?
Exactly. So by saying no, it allows him to feel and stay in control because he's saying no to the request, right? But by saying no, he's really saying yes, or paving the way for a further conversation. And it's not like a tricky thing or a devious thing. He's just using like, human response to get, the result that ultimately that he was trying to get to.
What I'm noticing is it's allowing permission to enter the negotiation too.
Exactly.
It didn't just go in for the right hook and say, will you speak? That type of question says, would it be ridiculous to ask? If he says, no, it would be ridiculous, then it's just like, okay, let's have a conversation about it now.
Right.
So
exactly.
It's like, super important. I love that.
So, and then just another thing, I'm a huge believer in networking. I talk about networking a lot and the importance of networking in business and how that enabled me to raise money and build my management team and so forth. So on Friday, I'm practicing what I preach. I was at a TEDx event in New York City. And the reason I went to that particular event was because one of the speakers was Dan Ariely, who is famous for writing Predictably Irrational. It's a fantastic book on behavioral economics. I think I've got it sitting around here somewhere, but I basically used a similar approach, but came at him with a value proposition and a lot of things to kind of differentiate what I was doing, to ask him and invite him to be a guest on my show here on Blab.
That's amazing.
So
That's
taking
amazing.
my offline network and the skills that I'm learning from people like Chris Voss and other things that I've learned throughout my life, and finding a live event to go meet this gentleman that I admire his books and his teachings, and finding a way to get him into a conversation and engage him and potentially bring him onto my show.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
It's working.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so somebody's saying here, I craft happiness, Rachel. I would love to go TEDx. They're all over the country. So if you go to TEDx or TED.com and just search TEDx in your area, you can probably find one, or you can start one. You can start your own TEDx. They're all volunteer run. So if you're interested in a specific topic around business or around stay-at-home moms even, or it's around knitting or crocheting, and you can find, let's say 10 speakers that are interested in that same topic, you can apply to TEDx and become your own event. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Frank, you always give us with so much value, and we just appreciate you coming in and blessing with you. I always catch your replays, man. I'm never there for the live stuff, but your replays are fire. If you're not following my boy Frank Clark, I had to stop the podcast and be like, yo, highlight and spotlight my boy Frank, because this guy drops knowledge. This is like not even in 10 minutes, and he's giving so much value. Imagine his shows on a weekly, regular basis.
Yeah, here's the link again for Chris Voss. That was just a fun interview to do, and having just read the book like in the last 2 days to prepare for there was so much more that came out in the interview than the book. So it was really really worthwhile watching that. If you've ever had to negotiate with a teenager, we talked about that. If you've ever had to negotiate to buy a new car, we talked about that, and how the techniques and the strategies that he advocates for and used in successfully getting hostages released also work in your personal life. Asking for a raise from your boss, all these strategies work just as well there as they do in getting hostages released.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I want to point out what Frank did right now. Frank came in and he gave value. He gave value. He gave some more value. And now part of his serving is by linking us to his blab that he did that's given even more value. And then from there, there's probably some type of call to action that may or may not ask for business, because a guy like Frank is a guy that over delivers on a regular, consistent basis. And he's just the epitome of like doing business online. I see you, dude.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
That's well to recognize. People do the opposite. A lot of people come on and like, hey, you should do this, or you should go do this action.
Yeah. I get it all the time when I follow people on Twitter. I get a tweet, an auto tweet back that says, buy my new book.
Yeah. It's the most annoying thing ever. Totally.
So the next thing you do is you click on unfollow, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So Frank, if someone has never been to like a networking event or a conference, what is your advice to chum it up and really get into the vibe and the tribe of the people at a conference? So
networking events can be very overwhelming, especially for somebody who's like already a little bit introverted, but even if you're extroverted, it can be overwhelming. If you're going to a place where there's strangers and you don't know anybody or whatever. Even for me, and I'm a veteran networker, I go to events all the time, but I'll go to a new event and I don't know anybody. I'm like, and you're like trying to make eye contact and trying to figure out a way. But like the event I went to on Friday, the TEDx event, I didn't know anybody, but we were outside and it was raining, waiting to get in. And, I just said something like, man, this stinks standing out here in the rain. Why don't they let us in? And somebody's like, I know, right? And then all of a sudden we're in a conversation. Then we ended up sitting next to each other, exchanging business cards, and we're talking. And, that's the start. So find one person and talk about something just innocuous as the weather or your favorite sports team or something just like, an icebreaker of some kind. And then focus on building a relationship with that one person. If you can go to a networking event and just find one person to build a relationship with, that can make the whole thing worthwhile. If you go and try and get every single business card in the place, you become like the guy that nobody wants to talk to. Like, hey, I'm Frank, here's my business card. Hey, I'm Frank, here's my, who wants that? It's like, where's the value? Why do I want your card? Why do I care, right? But if you can go and create that one relationship, that's a recipe for success in networking.
I've heard people give the opposite advice, and I love what you said. Like people say, go wide and like try to give out as many business cards as you can, try to take as many as you can. But I believe my personal belief is if you instead of width, if you go deep with somebody, that is way more valuable. You have one good relationship that's solid, it's worth 20 or 30 that are just fluffy.
Yeah, I mean,
so
maybe sometimes you're going to talk to 4 or 5 people till you find somebody who's interested in you. But when you get to that 5th person, I've had conversations at events where I had no interest even in the topic, but all of a sudden I met this one person and we got off on this tangent and we're talking about something like skydiving or whatever that has nothing to do with the topic. And it was just completely fascinating. And then we bonded over that and built a relationship. And those are the things that you can then leverage because now you've got the beginnings of a relationship. And as humans, we all start with a relationship. So you don't have a relationship with a business card, right? You got a relationship with somebody that you develop over the course of a conversation.
Absolutely.
Totally.
Absolutely. Hey, I want to give a big shout out to everybody joining us live. We got Dr. Hancock. She's a princess in suburbia. Jason Goudry, who is a realtor that I met through Ghost Codes and Snapchat. And also we have Dana Garrison, the founder of the Love Tribe on Periscope. Make sure you follow growth hacker Dana Garrison. I met her out in San Francisco and she's just a wonderful human being and she has so much value and she's the epitome of someone who serves her tribe on a daily basis. So make sure you follow my girl DG, Dana Garrison.
So why don't you come on in, Dana, if you can, because I'm going to have to pop off in a second. I got to run to an appointment with my son, and maybe you can take over my seat.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming on, Frank, always. I mean, the first time that we met, you just like blew me away. I was an instant fan. I was like, Frank for Prez.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I love talking about business, learning best practices, meeting other thought leaders. So kudos to you guys for picking a great topic that drew me in here, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It. And having a great guest. I'm sorry I missed the early part of the interview there, but I will continue to follow you guys and look for you in the future.
Absolutely.
Hey, sounds good.
Hey, Frank, I have a question. Would it be ridiculous for you to come back on a regular basis and bless us with your swagger?
I'll come back as often as I can, but why don't we set it up? Why don't you schedule an interview with me and we'll have a more detailed conversation. I'd be happy to do that.
That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. I really appreciate that.
All right. I've got to jump, guys. Great seeing you. Thank you very much. I appreciate all the kind comments and remarks, and I'll look for you again. DM me on Twitter and we'll set up an interview.
You got
Bye-bye.
it. See you later, Frank. Man, I love that guy, Frank. Frank is amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, it totally, the stuff he said stuck. I'm just noticing the chat. Yeah, who was it? What's her name? Is that I Craft Happiness is Rachel. She asked Dana, would it be ridiculous if you joined them on the Blab? And so I just think that's so funny. I love that question. I'm totally going to use that more.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's definitely wrap up. I know we both got to move on. And I appreciate your time. Closing remarks, Calvin, about growth hacking your offline network.
The biggest thing is people are people, so treat them like people. No fangirling. Show interest. Say, I mean, if it's a high level influencer that's actually had impact on your life, you can say that. You can say, hey, I appreciate what you've done. But always lead with how can I support you? What value can I give you? Just like Frank just did here. I like what he said about going to events that can be overwhelming. And if you just find one person, like you and I mean, you were like the big one, like out of all the people I met at Periscope Summit, most of them were just like fun conversations, but you were one conversation I went deep with, and we just had a great conversation and now it's lasting. And so that's what I would just suggest is it's not about the number of people, it's about the quality of the relationship. So ask how you can support them and just go from there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So always appreciate having contributor writing for Entrepreneur Magazine, millionaire in the making, documenting the process and showing you all the stuff that he's doing. Calvin Wayman, you got to follow him on Snapchat. How can people follow you, Calvin? I'm
Calvin Wayman everywhere. You can go to calvinwayman.com or You mentioned Snapchat. You can find me on Snapchat at Calvin Wayman.
Awesome, awesome. Really appreciate having you in there. My name is Frank Salas. I go by the name The Talented Mr. Salas. I'm founder of the Talent Tribe, and my promise is that I'm taking anybody with any talent and turning them into a thought leader on any social media platform. That's really how you guys can support me, is following me everywhere on Talented Mr. Salas. Somebody asked if we live stream on a regular basis. I live stream at least 2 times a day, and I'm constantly on Snapchat. I do about 60 snaps a day, so does Calvin. And you can find me at talentedmrsalas.ph. But if you really want to be a part of my inner circle, I encourage you guys to follow my Talent Tribe. And that's a Facebook group. Go to Facebook and search for Talent Tribe. And that's where I have people support each other. And they do their live streams first. So they pop their live stream cherry online on that Facebook group, and they get support, feedback. And we have a bunch of people that are linking up. And we got some cool stuff dropping as a community. I can't wait to kind of tell you what's going down. By the way, I want to give you a quick example of growth hacking your offline network. There's a woman named Jackie Huba who wrote a book about Lady Gaga and her followers called Little Monsters, and she's here in Austin, Texas. And I've been talking about her all the time. I've been tagging her on tweets, on LinkedIn, like she knows who I am, and she knows that I'm in Austin. She's on vacation, and she actually looked me up through Remax. I do real estate. She got my business phone number, and she's like, Frank, I understand that you want to interview me, but I need you to calm down. I'm not in the country right now, and when I come back, I will get there. You seem like a good guy. But she was like, ease up. And I just said, ma'am, I just wanted your attention. I'm glad that I have it. I'll leave you alone. But please believe this is not the last time you heard of me. And that's like the persistenceness of it, because I wasn't, I wasn't like going over the top. And I was very persistent. I was super persistent. I was leaving her video messages. I was showing her my notes of all the stuff that I got from her content. And I said, my tribe would benefit from having somebody like you on our platform. So it's something that you can constantly do in many different ways. And what we're going to do is we're probably going to have an affiliate for the book for our tribe. And that's a way for me to, monetize that platform. And we may even have a JV offer with the author. And that's the kind of stuff that I teach people how to do, is how to build a following and how I do that. And yes, somebody wanted a link to my Facebook group, the Talent Tribe. I'm going to leave a link for you right now down in the comments below. And at this time, I'd like to thank our sponsors. We got Michael Kors for providing our wardrobe for Calvin Wayman. We got Banana Republic sponsoring my wardrobe. Who else sponsors we got, Calvin?
Apple.
Yeah, we got Apple, got AT&T.
My phone. Yeah, I got Google for sponsoring my Chrome that's on my computer. And Folgers for sponsoring the coffee that I started out drinking and is now gone.
Awesome. Calvin, always a pleasure, man. Calvin and I never rehearse for these things. We just chat because we have selfish conversations in private. The conversations that we have, most people would benefit from, and we realize that our conversation is of value to the marketplace. I did put a link down in the comments below. That is bit.do/automate now, all lowercase. And that's how you can join my Facebook group, the Talent Tribe. And my promise is I'm serving those with talent and transforming them into thought leaders. Talk to you guys later.
Hey, thanks.